Chapter 11. The morning after. He filled the glass with water, the cool liquid a welcome relief. He looked out the window, the city slowly coming to life. He summoned his drone, its silent arrival a familiar comfort. -5 tick points. +1 active drone. He sent it out, its blue lens scanning the urban landscape, a tireless scout in a world of unknown dangers. He needed to know what was out there, what threats he'd face. He needed to be prepared. He leaned against the counter, his mind racing. He had the gauntlet, the first piece of the set, but he needed the rest. He needed to level up, to gain more experience, to become stronger. The slaughter at the farm had been a good start, but it was not enough. He needed more. The faint rustle of sheets from the bedroom was the only warning he got before a rush of displaced air brushed past his ear. A soft, sharp pressure, not painful but unmistakably deliberate, clamped down on the flesh of his shoulder. Numb. The sound was a soft whisper against his skin. He didn't flinch, didn't even startle, a predatory calm settling over him instead. He slowly turned his head, catching Iris's amber eyes as she withdrew, her lips curled into a faint, playful smirk. "Did you use Blade's step just now?" he asked, his voice a low, steady rumble. Her ears twitched, a flicker of amusement in her glowing eyes. "Indeed." Her purr was a low vibration he felt more than heard. "It is an efficient method of movement for a short distance, especially when aiming to surprise ones. Progenitor." The way she lingered on the title sent a shiver down his spine that had nothing to do with the cool morning air. She was testing boundaries, exploring their new dynamic with the same analytical precision she applied to combat, and the result was intoxicating. He smiled, a genuine, predatory grin that reached his eyes. "Good. You should get comfortable with your abilities. But remember Iris." He stepped closer, invading her personal space, the fresh scent of her fur filling his senses. "My name is Cyranox." He leaned in, his lips brushing against her ear, the warmth of his breath the stark contrast to the cool metal of the gauntlet on his hand. "Unless you prefer, Master." The word hung in the air between them, a challenge and an invitation. He watched her reaction, a mix of surprise and something darker, more primal, flickering in her amber eyes. She was a creature of power, and she respected power. He was showing her his, not with threats, but with confidence, with the calm assurance of a predator who had found his place in this new, brutal world. Now he straightened up, his tone shifting from intimate to strategic. With a boop on her snoot he began speaking. "We need to plan our next move. Leveling requires hunting, and hunting requires a target. And we need lots of targets. If my math is right, and I'm sure it is, we need about 56,000 animals to get to level 10. Iris's ears perked up at the mention of a concrete objective, her playful demeanor giving way to the analytical focus of her eldritch night training. She straightened her posture, the torn shirt doing little to hide the powerful muscles beneath her dark fur. "A significant quantity," she observed, her tone devoid of any emotional reaction to the sheer scale of the slaughter he proposed. The previous location provided a dense, contained population of lesser creatures. We should identify similar agricultural hubs. Parks with large populations of squirrels or pigeons would be less efficient and riskier in terms of civilian observation. She paused, her sharp gaze shifting towards the window where his drone had recently departed. "The drone could scout a wide radius. I suggest we use it to map out all suitable hunting grounds within a 50-kilometer radius. We can establish a rotation, hitting one target per night to minimize detection and allow for proper resource management. Each operation should be planned with military precision. Ingress, target elimination, and exfiltration." Her analysis was cold, efficient, and utterly devoid of the casual horror of their actions, a perfect reflection of the new reality they inhabited. She was already thinking like a commander, a predator planning its hunt, and her focus was a heady mix of pride and utility. He ran his hand over her muzzle into her mane and said, "Iris, that would take too long. We both need 56,000 kills, and that is just for level 10. Then there is your suggestion with my drone. It can only currently be operated in a 5 km radius around me." Cyranox smiled and said, "We will do it in a single night. A blitzkrieg, if you want to call it that, a full-on assault on multiple locations at the same time." His eyes glint with a fierce, predatory light, the sheer audacity of the plan a thrill that coursed through him. He was not just a survivor. He was a conqueror, and this was his declaration of war against the mundane, against the weakness that had defined his old life. Iris's expression didn't change, but her amber eyes narrowed, her mind already processing the logistical nightmare of such an operation. "A blitzkrieg, yes, there will be one, but not now, not here. Anyway, you had the same thought as me, a large-scale chicken farm. If we would drive a few hours, we would get to somewhere that has around 200,000, more than enough. There is just one problem. Human casualties will be unavoidable." She looked at him, her gaze unwavering, a silent challenge in her eyes. She was laying out the consequences, forcing him to confront the reality of his ambition. She was his weapon, but she was also a cold, analytical mirror reflecting the monster he was becoming. She left the unspoken question in the air between them, a test of his resolve, a measure of the darkness he was willing to embrace. Cyranox takes a step back and whispers softly, "Sacrifice the few to save the many, I will be the necessary evil." Chapter 12. Casual Morning. Cyranox kept eating his muesli, spoonful after spoonful, the rhythmic scrape of metal against ceramic filling the small kitchen. The taste remained familiar on his tongue. Oats, honey, dried fruits, the texture unchanged after all this. He sat with deliberate slowness, as if the previous conversation had been nothing more than a fleeting thought, his posture relaxed but betraying nothing of the urgency that had just passed between them. As he stood to leave, his hand brushed against Iris's shoulder, the fur beneath his fingers surprisingly soft despite the coarser outer coat. "You may eat whatever you like," he said, his voice even. "We won't be coming back here." His attention shifted to the glowing notification in his field of vision. 43 experience. The pitiful number barely registered as he dismissed the drone from his awareness, the notification fading like a dying ember. Plus 43 experience. -1 active drone. Halfway to the bathroom, he paused and turned back, the towel cool beneath his bare feet. "And Iris, pack some for the road," he said, his voice low but clear, carrying through the morning stillness. He stepped into the bathroom, and soon the sound of the shower filled the morning silence, the spray hitting the porcelain with a steady hiss. Water streamed over him, brief comfort against what was coming, the heat seeping into his muscles, easing tensions he hadn't realized he was carrying. Minutes passed while Cyranox stood with eyes closed, face tilted to the stream, letting the water wash away not just dirt but something deeper. He slicked his wet hair back with his hands, the dark strands falling away from his forehead like a curtain. When the water stopped, he drew a deep breath as the last droplets hit his skin, steam rising from his shoulders in the cool bathroom air. In one smooth motion, he wiped water from his face before opening his eyes. Sleep had fully retreated. He felt rested, more so than in recent memory, a clarity of thought that was almost unnerving. The mirror showed a face both his and not his, a Dampier, a predator, a progenitor, pale skin, sharpened features, a predatory glint in his eyes that hadn't been there yesterday, or if it had, it was dimmer somehow. It was him, but something more as well, something ancient and dangerous stirring beneath the surface. Returning to the kitchen, he found Iris standing before the open refrigerator, her back to him, a silhouette against the white light. She was eating, quick and efficient, the soft crunch filling the quiet room, her movements economical and precise. He cleared his throat. She turned, muzzle glistening, crumbs of raw beef clinging to the dark fur around her lips, her amber eyes alert and watchful. "I have prepared provisions as you requested," she said, her voice low and steady, amber eyes meeting his. "But I'm not sure where to put it." She gestured toward a collection of wrapped items on the counter. Raw meat, cheese, bread, practical, hasty. The provisions would last them several days if rationed properly, a small comfort in uncertain times. He crossed to the counter, the hint of a smile touching his lips, a rare expression that didn't quite reach his eyes. A bag should work. Beneath the counter, he found a shopping bag filled with empty cans. He appended it. The clatter and crash as they hit the floor sent a sharp spike through his skull, far louder than anticipated. He flinched at the assault on his ears, the sound reverberating painfully in his enhanced hearing. A brief flicker of discomfort crossed his face before he could mask it. The enhanced senses would take getting used to, another adjustment in a series of transformations he hadn't asked for but couldn't deny. He set the empty bag on the counter, the plastic crinkling softly under his touch. "That should do," he said. "I'll get dressed." He turned and walked back to the bedroom, leaving Iris to pack the provisions. Dark jeans first, then a black hoodie. The familiar fabric settled against his skin, a mundane comfort amidst the new reality. His gaze fell on the bed, sheets twisted in memory of the night. Strange, yet not unwelcome. When he returned to the kitchen, Iris was already by the door. The shopping bag, now filled with their provisions, sat on the floor beside her, the strange assortment made for a practical if unconventional picnic, a silent preparation for violence to come. Her silhouette was framed again. Chapter 13. Long way to go. The walk to the car passed in silence. Neither of them spoke, and it didn't take long before they reached it. He placed the bag carefully onto the back seat, tugged the seatbelt across it, and only then slid into the driver's seat. "If anyone asks, it's cosplay," he muttered as he started the engine. "I'm sure it won't come to that. Though now that I've said it, it probably will." The engine rumbled to life, and Iris's wolf ears twitched at the sound. Cosplay, okay, she said after a moment. The drive stretched on long, quiet, and uneventful. No small talk, no idle chatter, just the steady hum of the engine and the low murmur of music drifting from the radio. And every so often, he glanced at his phone to check the navigation, then returned his eyes to the road. Nearly 4 hours later, the destination finally came into view. A heavily walled property dotted with large, utilitarian buildings. "Harris," he said as he pulled to a stop. "Today we do things differently. We won't be in the same location. Kill as fast as you can. If you get spotted, deal with it. The longer we avoid the authorities, the better." She nodded once, calm and focused. "I will do my best." She stepped out of the car, vaulted the wall in a single fluid motion, and vanished from sight. He exhaled, then summoned his drones. +2 active drone. -10 tech points. 2 shapes rose silently into the air and streaked toward the building farthest from the entrance. Glass shattered as they breached a window, and moments later the drones opened fire, cutting down everything alive inside. The chickens scattered in blind panic, running in frantic circles before being mowed down by relentless, methodical gunfire. The experience flowed in slow, but steady. "Don't show me each kill separately. Group them. If there's a pause between kills, show the total number and types of slain." He almost wanted to think of them as monsters, but they weren't. They're chickens, and maybe the occasional human. That's what they are. The drone's fire rate felt sluggish to him, painfully so, but there was nothing he could do about it. 120 shots per minute, 2 shots per second. Still, every round hit its mark. Slow, precise, efficient. With 2 drones active, I lose 6 tech points per minute and gain 2. The realization made his stomach tighten. That gives me about 30 minutes before I'm dry. He gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white from the pressure of his grip. 6,480 experience per summon, then an hour cooldown before I can bring them back. He opened the car door and stepped out onto the gravel. No time to sit around, time to get physical myself. He sprinted forward, vaulted the wall less gracefully than Iris, but he made it and dropped down onto the other side. "Let's hunt." He kicked a door clean off its hinges and strode inside. The chickens scattered, squawking in terror. He lunged, moving faster than he ever had before, his new dampier agility granting him an unnatural swiftness. One by one, he drove his gauntleted fist through their bodies. Bones cracked, blood sprayed. The sheer, visceral brutality of it was dizzying. The experience trickled in far less than from the drones, but it was there. "There are around 200,000 chickens in this facility. We can take our time, but humans..." He paused, took a slow breath, and steeled himself. "Let's hope there aren't many." The smell of blood was just as intense as the smell at his side. His pupils constricted as soon as he perceived it. His tongue touched the bloody glove before he even knew what he was doing. After tasting the fresh, steaming blood, he tore it in two and let the blood run into his mouth. He jerked his head back and grabbed the nearby fence for support. It was messy, and it took time to kill one chicken. "This is too slow." He broke off a fence board and used it as a paddle. The wet splashing and cracking sound when it hit their heads was grotesque. He slammed the board into the ground and switched to a more direct approach. Each swing sent a spray of blood and bone fragments through the place. Much better. He had lost all track of time, consumed by the relentless slaughter, when he heard a loud crash from one of the other buildings. He turned just as a terrified guard stumbled out, clutching a bleeding arm. The guard's eyes widened in horror at the sight of him, covered in blood, surrounded by mountains of dead chickens. Then the guard's gaze flickered past him, and he screamed. Iris appeared from the shadows behind him, her claws dripping, her silver mane streaked with blood. She works fast. The guard fumbled for something, but before he could pull out whatever it was, Iris lunged. There was a sickening crunch as her jaws closed around his throat. He gurgled, then went limp. Iris dropped the body and turned to Cyranox. Her amber eyes were calm, almost dispassionate. "There were 3 humans inside this building," she said. "I eliminated them. There may be more." He nodded, then raised a blood-soaked fist and gave her a thumbs up. The connection to his drones vanished as they stopped existing. He turned back to the task at hand and continued to kill by hand. The experience flowed during the next hour was painfully slow before he could resummon his drones. A scream broke his routine swings as worker burst in, surprising him mid-swing. It was a lady in her later years of life. He turned his head, and a few meters in front of him a drone appeared, fired once and disappeared in a cloud of blue sparks. It was quick and painless, Without hesitation or remorse, he did what he has to do. The moment his tech points were full again, he summoned his drones again. +2 active drone. -10 tech points. He sent them away with the mental command to continue what they had been doing. Just a few minutes later, he walked out the building. He stepped into the next one just to see that it was already avoid of alive. His gaze took in the scene before him and saw the carnage that Iris had left behind. A handful of dead people and a pile of flesh and feathers. Chapter 14. End in sight. Time passed, his arms got heavy from the continuous swings. He was tired, but he knew he can't stop now. They were 3 hours in, and in that time 24 humans meet their end. For the last 30 minutes, the only sounds were from the chickens and the wet sounds of bodies getting smashed, as well as the zapping of the magical guns of his drones. Cyranox looked at his status and saw the level 7. A small smile formed on his face. Status! Name: Cyranox. Race: Dampier. Class: Dronemancer. Level: 7. HP: 105 out of 105. Tap points: 28 out of 140. Strength: 14 +8 +5%, 23. Dexterity: 12 +8 +5%, 21. Constitution: 14 +8 +5%, 23. Intelligence: 21 +8 +5%, 30. Agility: 14 +8 +5%, 22. Willpower: 22 +8 +5%, 32. Only 12 more hours to go. We should take a break when my drones run out the next time. He was lost in thought as he struck a chicken with such force that it crunched against the wall and fell lifeless to the floor. His arms burned from the constant exertion, but he continued striking, hitting one chicken after another. It was simpler as expected to kill a chicken. It felt like cheating, as if it was too easy. If you can just hunt down any living being. Whack. Once again the head of a chicken hits the ground lifelessly after a swing with the board. I'd like to know how the others compare. If I'm in first place and Iris is in second, and we're both at level 7, what level is the person in third place? There was no pop-up or anything like that. It did not react at all, not even a sign of confirmation from the system. He just accepted it and continued. His drones were resummoned a few minutes later, flying off again. +2 active drone. -10 tech points. The speed of the counter in the corner of his vision speeded up once again. The wet smacking sound of the board hitting a chicken was the only thing that filled the hole for a short while, followed by a scream that stopped abruptly. He was so used to it that he didn't even look up this time. He just continued with his work. After 3 hours of almost constant slaughter, he finally reached the required amount of experience to reach the next level. He was so engrossed in the work that he barely noticed the system message. Bane. Level up. You are now level 8. As the drone's connection vanished, he walked out of the building he was in. Like the ones before, there was only death inside. -2 active drone. A pile of dead chickens and gore. The plank from the fence now resting against the outside of the building right next to the door. Cyranox walked over to where he hears Iris. She was cleaves through them, with her claws that had an ethereal glow to them, extending them by the length of her fingers. The glow was pale green with a slight blue tint. +25,693 experience. That's what I'm talking about. He grinned slightly as he ceased the system notification, leaning against the door frame, calling inside. Iris, let's catch a break. We got far, let's rest and continue after eating something at full strength. She stopped mid-swing and turned to him, her amber eyes glowing faintly in the dim light of the barn. The ethereal glow around her claws faded, and she lowered her hands, her form a silhouette against the piles of dead chickens. I understand. Cyranox, we will resume after we have replenished our strength. Her tone was professional, but he could sense a flicker of relief in her voice. The constant killing was taking its toll on both of them, a shared burden of their brutal existence. He hopped over the wall and got the bag of food. Looking inside, he chuckled softly. The bag was placed in front of Iris and he asked with a chuckle, "What's the blank for, Iris?" Iris looked at the blanket, then back at him, her expression a mix of curiosity and confusion. "It is for comfort, Cyranox. I assumed it would be preferable to sit on something other than the ground." Her response was logical, a stark contrast to the strange, yet intimate scene they were creating. He couldn't help but smile, a genuine, warm smile that reached his eyes. He was a monster, a predator, but he was also a man, and he was finding moments of humanity in the most unlikely of places. Cyranox patted the spot next to him on the blanket, a silent invitation. She sat down, her movements a little stiff, as if she were still getting used to the concept of a break. He started to unpack the bag. There were cold cuts and even a few sweets inside. Are you also leveling up nicely, Iris? Yes, I'm at level 8 at this moment. She picked up a slice of sausage and ate it, licking her bloody fingers afterwards. We should pack some of them for dinner. It would be a filling meal to eat them cooked over a fire, she said after she finished a slice. Cyranox looked at her, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. He hadn't thought of that, but it was a good idea. He was a predator, and predators didn't waste their kill. Good idea, Iris. We'll do that. The break was mostly quiet. After Iris had her fill, she lay down on his lap, closing her eyes. After his tick points were full again, he gently nudged Iris. Time to get up. Without a word but with a soft growl, she got up and helped pack the bag. Cyranox stood up, the brief respite over, a sense of urgency washing over him. The clock was ticking, and the mana infusion was getting closer with every passing hour. He needed to be stronger, faster, more deadly. He needed to be ready. Let's finish this. With a single, decisive thought, he summoned his drones again, their silent arrival a familiar comfort. +2 active drone. -10 tech points. He sent them back to their work, a relentless, mechanical killing force. He picked up the plank, its weight of familiar comfort in his hands, and walked back into one of the buildings, the smell of blood and death a constant, oppressive presence. Only level 8. I want to be at least level 10. This is taking too long, too inefficient, and yet my only choice. Chapter 15. Unexpected change. He entered the building and saw a sea of yellow fluff. These were no adult chickens, they were mere chicks. He stomped one in a second before smashing the plank down into them. There was no announcement, no broing counter. The feat that showed his kills was only showing one thing at this point. Adult chicken LV, 0-285 times. +285 experience. Before his break there was one more entry on it, simply named Adult Human LV, 0. They are not included because they have only just hatchlings, or because it represents a kind of protection from the system, so that the species won't get wiped out. No point in killing anything if it won't count towards the goal. On his way out of the building with the chicks, he thought for a moment about it. His next target was a short walk away. Cyranox's keen hearing could detect even the faintest sounds from his drones. The hissing and roaring of his drones' magical cannons was a constant background noise, just one building away. Same as for them, it was no different for himself. It was the same whacking and thudding sounds when the plank connected with one of the chickens. The occasional splatter sound of blood and bone if he hit them too hard, but still the same as before. -2 active drone. As the connection to his drones was severed due to a lack of tech points, he looked at the feat it displayed, the kills and experience. Adult chicken LV, 0-13,825 times. +6,912 experience. It was coming along well. With the 4 of them, it should be possible to reach level 10 within the day. Just as before, he was hit and slapped the chickens. It was somehow fun now. It was not so grotesque and repulsive anymore. The slight unease had disappeared. The scent of blood and torn bodies filled the air. It was intoxicating. Just as before, after his tech points were full again, he summoned the drones and they continued their relentless slaughter. And like this, hours passed by. Bane, level up. You are now level 9. He was overjoyed when he heard the announcement and knew he was one step closer to his personal goal. But his joy was short-lived because the system notification showing his kills did something quite unexpected. It was mostly the same, showing the number of adult chickens they have hunted or slaughtered so far. The accumulated experience was listed just below that. At first glance it looked normal, but one thing was different. Adult chicken LV, 0.46,452 times. +23,226.4 experience. He looked at the experience and his eyes went wide. There is no fucking way. Diminishing returns. Cyranox stopped what he was doing and thought for a bit. It made sense that you would not get the same amount of experience for the same slain beast or animal if your level went up. I'm now 10 level above them. Was that the threshold? It must be. For the next level we need 20,000 experience. That are 200 kills just for one person alone. The counter in his vision rose by the second. +23,227.1 experience. It was a total momentum killer, like hitting a brick wall I didn't see coming. And just as I was finding my rhythm, this will change so much. Fuck! There are not enough chickens here! His loud cry echoed off the walls, accompanied by a frustrated crash. With full force, he smashed his board against a chicken, the knuckles turning white from his firm grip. The impact of the board was dull, and the chicken itself burst like a watermelon hit by a sledgehammer. Blood and bits of flesh flew across the open space, the board splintering in two from the force of the impact. Cyrannox stared at the shattered board and tossed it aside before tearing another one from the nearby fence. We can still make it. We have 5 more days. We just need another farm with a few 100,000 animals. No big deal. They are like everywhere. The copium was strong, but he knew he could not change it. The only thing he could do was finishing up here and looking for another one. As the sun slowly dipped behind the horizon, the day came slowly to an end. He was soaked in blood and chunks of flesh. Cyrannox stretched as he stepped out of the building, looking up into the darkening sky. His drones had merely hovered over a building, having failed to identify any further targets. With a thought he summoned them, the mental connection instantly gone. Somewhere 2 drones vanish in a cloud of blue sparks. -2 active drone. After a while, Iris came around the corner. Her once black fur was now matted with blood, a few feathers clinging to it. He looked down at himself. His pants were not just blood-stained, they were soaking wet. Now that he looked down, he noticed how wet they were. A small trail of blood droplets followed him from the building to where he was standing. Then he turned to her and said in an indifferent voice, "We should look inside the house for a shower or at least a place to clean up in." The experience. "Don't, Iris, just don't. First we clean, then we talk about that." He cut her off midway through. While walking towards the welfare unit of this large-scale poultry farm, the drones got summoned and cleared the building in under a minute of any form of life. Adult human LV, 0-12 times. +1 point to experience. Near the entrance, they found a changing room with adjacent showers inside a small washroom. The blood-soaked clothes were removed and thrown away. While the laundry was in the machine, he took a shower and enjoyed the warm water washing away the blood and tension. Shortly afterward, Iris came in, but instead of showering herself, she crept up to him and gently bit him on the shoulder as her blood-soaked hands caressed his body. Numb. Cyrannox turned his head back over his shoulder and looked at her muzzle softly nibbling on his shoulder. "You like that, don't you?" "Memium," she purred, the sound vibrating through her chest and into his back. Her hammer eyes gleamed with a primal light as she looked up at him, a flicker of something playful, yet dangerous, in their depths. "It's satisfying. The warmth, the taste of you. It's a connection." She didn't wait for a response, simply tightened her grip slightly, her claws gently pricking his skin as she leaned in to nip him again, this time a little higher on the neck. It was a gesture of possession, of intimacy, of a predator staking its claim. "And you do not seem to mind." He turned around, the water flowing over both of them, and gently lifted her chin with one hand, his touch a stark, cold contrast to her warm, wet fur. "I don't mind at all, Iris, but you should clean up now. Now is rather the place nor the time for this. We have to go move on soon." He let go of her, her lips slightly parted, as she slowly leaned in, but got interrupted by a finger on her lips. "Not the time nor the place, Iris.